Hello, this is OverlordBou, and today we'll be covering the long-awaited slash dreaded aircraft carrier, the Tier 10 Shinano. Now, the Shinano is a very historical ship for the Japanese, so I'm not surprised they added it into the game. But this ship does have a few specialties that I'll just point out. Before I do that, let's talk about how much this ship's going to cost. So you can get in the steel event for 36,000 steel, which comes with the steel camo along with the ship itself. You can get it after the event is done for probably rough estimate like 32,000 steel is what's probably going to be, but they haven't told us the exact price yet. But the Shinano and the Archer Fish are going to be, they have confirmed both will be for steel after the steel event is over. So if you guys are not wanting to spend 36,000 steel, you can just wait and then use your coupons on getting the Shinano or the Archer Fish after the event is done, depending on what your preference is for either or. And you guys let me know down in the comments which one you plan to get. I would greatly appreciate that. So what makes this CV unique compared to other CVs? Well, one, it is a hull very similar to the Yamato. It has a 27 millimeter bow slash stern with a 30 millimeter upper sides and a 75 millimeter deck. That pretty much means this thing is extremely tanky. Very survivability built for an aircraft carrier. It's not as tanky as say like the German aircraft carriers, but this is pretty tanky on its own. It does share the same similar citadel structure of a Yamato, except for the midsection. Instead of being like 400 millimeters, it is only 160 millimeters. So you do got to be careful about showing your broadsides to the enemy, or you'll be in a lot of trouble. So this ship has the main gimmicks of this ship. One is the hull. Two is its secondaries and the AP skip bombers. So the ship does have skip bombers, and they are AP, and they are able to Citadel battleships. The only way you can Citadel battleships is if there are 3 lines for the skip bombers, right? There's 3 lines. For the 3 lines, the first ones are able to Citadel battleships. The second line is able to Citadel heavy cruisers, and the third line is able to Citadel light cruisers. And the reason why is the AP skip bombers have the most velocity to pin at the first skip when they bounce, and as they go further they slow down, which means they're less likely to be able to Citadel. So if you're trying to Citadel battleships, you have to go all the way in, like really close to them, using to the first line to be able to get that Citadel on them, because you are able to Citadel Conquerors and other battleships. You just have to be able to get that speed up of the bomb to be able to Citadel them. Now, lucky enough, every single plane type on the Shinano has heals. But you have torpedo bombers, you have the AP skip bombers, and then you have the HE dive bombers, which are the special squadron of this one. Since this is kind of like the support variant of the Essex, it shares the same gimmick with the HE, with the special restoration dive bombers, where they can deploy smoke. But this ship is not as a supportive CV as the Essex. This is definitely more of a more of aggressive aircraft carrier, and this thing has very accurate secondaries, which can destroy destroyers. Now, this thing does get Graf Zeppelin dispersion on the secondaries, which are pinpoint accurate. The only problem is that there are only 8 guns on this thing. So there's 4 on each side, right? So it's not the best amount of guns, but it does have one of the highest practical secondaries TPM at tier 10. It's on par with the Napoli and Schlieffen if you just ignore the penetration, because the guns are 127, so they're not going to have high pin. But if there's a destroyer trying to get you, or a lightly armored cruiser, or even at distance like a battleship, you'll get fires on a battleship very easily with this thing. And when you build into the secondaries, they go up to 11 kilometers, by the way. So you get 11 kilometer secondaries on this thing, which is absolutely insane for this ship. You are able to, if you decide to build full into concealment, which I don't, the recommended build, which I'll be showing at the end of the video, is a 12.2 kilometer concealment build for the ship, but you can get the concealment down to 10.9 kilometers. If you do decide to go down to the 10.9 kilometers, that means that the moment that you're spotted by a ship, they're within your secondary range, which means you can then go smoke yourself up and then spot whatever is spotting you, and your secondaries will just farm them to death. It is the most hilarious thing you can do, and you'll be seeing me do that in today's replays. In these 2 replays, you'll be watching me do it, and it's pretty hilarious. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's gonna be definitely meme worthy, so enjoy that for sure. So we talked about the secondary. This thing has amazing secondaries. Graphs up with dispersion, amazing secondaries. They're absolutely bonkers, right? The anti-air, it's legit average CV anti-air, so not really much to talk about. ASW, it's the same automatic ASW for CV, so we really don't have to talk about it that much. It's not really special. For maneuverability, it's not very quick. It's 27 knot top speed. It's not the quickest. Normally the Japanese aircraft carriers are known for their speed. This one, however, yeah, no. Since it is a Yamato hull, this thing is not going to be moving very quick. So if you do put the speed flag on, it goes roughly 30 knots. It's not the slowest, not the fastest, but it'll work on what you're trying to do. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, yeah, for this thing having a Yamato hull, it's very good, great concealment. That's something I forgot to mention. Yeah, it's kind of insane how good this concealment is for it being a Yamato hull. It is pretty insane. And with this ship, you do get 72,000 HP, which is a lot of HP for an aircraft carrier. You also get a 55% torpedo protection. So if you're being torped, you're gonna take almost no damage. So yeah, the fact you get 55% is pretty insane. With that high amount torpedo protection, it really makes it where you can be more aggressive with this aircraft carrier, or you don't have to fear destroyers as much because you're gonna be taking way less damage from them. But again, you don't have a heal, so you can't really heal back any damage that you're taking. So you can only, you know, DCP it or just tank it. You can't really heal it back. But you do have a lot of HP to play with, so you can be a little bit more aggressive than compared to other aircraft carriers. So unlike other aircraft carriers, this ship does get the regular tier 10 fire resistance, which is 50%, while normal CVs get the 20%. So you get higher fire resistance and you get the higher torpedo protection, which is amazing. And with that standard 50% fire resistance, you also get 60-second fires. This is the first CV to get the 60-second fires. Normally, the aircraft carriers have very short burst fires, but this is the first one where it will have the full 60-second fires. And if you kind of see how this ship is played, you would understand why that is. So as you watch these replays, you'll kind of understand why they decide to have 60-second fires and not those shorter lasting fires. Just to the fact that this thing's gonna be played way more aggressive, and you're gonna be using smokes for yourself a lot while you're playing this thing, to be able to push in with your team, to being able to use your secondaries and your aircraft to just do a lot of damage. So we talked a lot about the ship and the hull and the rebuild. Let's talk about the plane. Let's talk about the good stuff. So the planes, you get torpedo bombers, HE dive bombers, and the dreaded AP skip bombers. Now the AP skip bombers, they have very little ricochet. That's going to be very hard for them to ricochet. They gave them absolutely insane ricochet angles. So if you hit their side, you're gonna almost guarantee pin. And again, like I was saying, you are able to Citadel battleships with these AP dive bombers, by the way. You just have to hit the first line so pretty much if you see the 3 lines, right? There's the first, when it first hits the water, the second, and the third. The first line is you have to hit that on the battleship. So you want to hit that line right at the Citadel or slightly before, so it goes into it, or right after, so it just goes straight into the Citadel, right? The second line is meant for heavy cruisers, right? Heavy cruisers. Because if you try to hit heavy cruisers or light cruisers on the first line, it's gonna overpin and not pin the Citadel. It'll overpin it, just from how fast it goes. So this is why I'm saying there's certain lines to the AB skip bombers. You have to aim them at certain areas to be able to do the most effective pin, because if you don't, then you'll be suffering. This ship also can actually do CV sniping really well with the AP skip bombers if you so wish. Like, Essexes are really popular right now, and this thing can really damage Essexes or Midways or any of those bigger carriers that have like the high tops that have little armor. Nakamov, you can really damage a lot of those carriers that normally people wouldn't try, but with this thing you can easily do with the AP skip bombers. Also, something to note, this thing is very tanky against Essexes because of that 75mm deck. So those bombers, that the regenerative ones for the Essex, they do 0 damage to this ship, by the way. On the flight deck, literally nothing. You don't take any damage from the flight deck. They'd only hit damage from the side. If they do hit your side, they partially can, but not that much. They can only do damage to your like superstructure on like the main tower, or a few places on the side that are really hard to hit by an aircraft carrier. So this thing is very immune to damage from the Essex, which is pretty much the go-to aircraft carrier right now in an A. On EU, I'm not so sure. So if somebody on EU wants to tell me what's the most popular aircraft carrier you see at tier 10, I'd actually really appreciate that information. So going off from the AP skip bombers, let's move on to the HE dive bombers. So you get these things every 120 seconds, so every 2 minutes or so. You have an alpha up to 70,000 damage. If you want to compare it to another CV that's popular, the Midway. These things are very similar to damage compared to a Midway. And this thing has a 55mm HE pin, which you'll be able to pin about 90% of ship decks with that HE. So you'll be doing max damage almost every time, unless, or not max, you do a lot of damage each time unless you hit a gun. Then they're not going to do like any damage. And these HE dive bombers have the smoke that you'll be using a lot of the time for yourself, to smoke yourself up and protect yourself. So a lot of the time what you would do is you'll either use these at the beginning to go and spot or do things since the restoration, right? And once you figure out what target you want to go after, you go after it. And then you come back with torpedo bombers if they decide to DCP, or you go back with the AP skip bombers, depending upon how you want to go about the target. If they DCP, you bring torpedo bombers. If they don't, then you go after you go after them with the AP dive bombers. Oh, sorry, AP skip bombers, not the dive bombers. So the HE dive bombers, they don't have a heal, so they're a lot more tanky because they don't have a heal. But the torpedo bombers and the AP skip bombers both have a large amount of heals, which are very important because you don't have a very large reserve. And at the end of the video, I'll be showcasing my build, and you'll understand why I didn't go full concealment, but I'll explain it here. The reason why I didn't do full concealment on this thing is because of the fact that in the concealment slot in the modules where you normally would, I took the module that gave you 2 extra planes on deck. That is very important for this thing because of the fact that torpedo bombers only get 12 on deck and the AP skip bombers only get 18. And if you think about it, per squad, you get 9 for the torpedo bombers, and per squad for the AP skip bombers, you get 12. So you do not get a lot of reserves to play with on this ship. So you have to be very wise in who you attack or how you attack. you have to be very wise in that, in reserving your planes and not just overly wasting them. Now, as you can see through this video, I didn't do the best job of doing that. Unfortunately, I should have most of the time used one of my bombs early or one of my torpedo bombs early to be able to save a squad, but I didn't. So I do apologize for that, but that's something that I would look back on and be like, yeah, I made a rookie mistake. I should have made it where instead of running with 3, I ran with 2, and then would use the heal to offset my planes getting shot down. I would use the heal to get a strike off, and then instantly F key to be able to save my planes. That's something to note that I would do. Some people would argue or say, oh, well, why don't you play this like the Essex with the fighter coverage, right? Why don't you do that? Well, the problem is that you don't have the same flexibility as you do with the Essex. The Essex has more flexibility with that attack fighter and the fact that its build is a little bit more flexible. This CV's build is very more fixed on building into the secondaries and its concealment, since it does have a great concealment in secondary. So if you don't want to build into secondaries or concealment, you can play it more like a regular aircraft carrier and build into the same fighter gimmick the Essex has. But the main thing that makes the Essex so strong is the fact that it has 2 squadrons that are able to use the smoke, while this one only has 1. So this ship isn't as supportive as the Essex is, which is why the Essex is a lot more popular nowadays rather than other aircraft carriers. It's because you can provide a teammate with smoke, you can provide them with way better fighter coverage. This thing is more an aggressive playing aircraft carrier where you use the fighters to support your push going in and support your team as you're pushing in. You're giving them coverage right there with you as you're pushing with the smoke or being around the area with your team. You're being more like in the battle kind of aircraft carrier compared to the Essex, where it's way more squishy. It can't be aggressive. If you're aggressive in the Essex, you're legit dead unless you're providing yourself with infinite smokes, which it can do. But that's just my take on the Essex versus the Shinano is my take on that. I do like both of the aircraft carriers. Like in the long run, I'd probably say to me, like if I'm playing in a div, would I take this or an Essex? I would rather take the Essex in a div, right? If I'm playing in a div, I would rather give them an Essex because of the fact that, and that's if I played aircraft carrier, because I don't like playing them. I would take the Essex. 1, the better fighter coverage. 2, the smokes. You have way more smoke options for the Essex. It has 2 squadrons that have them, so you're way more likely to be able to give your teammates support and your flank support when you are playing the Essex. The Shinano is more of like a single, like you can do memes with the Shinano with the smoke. You can have someone smoke pairing with you as well. It can be pretty memey in that regard. It can be pretty memey and fun to play, for sure. So we talked about what made this ship great, right? Great concealment, great secondaries, great hull, great torpedo protection, great survivability. Overall, very tanky aircraft carrier with strong secondaries and a very unique AP skip bomber gimmick on this thing. You also have the HE dive bombers of restoration and the torpedo bombers. So for the torpedo bombers, they are similar. They're not as strong as the Hakuryu's torpedoes. They are very strong torpedoes. They do 7,200 per torpedo with an alpha of 21,000. But there are more planes in a Hakuryu attack than compared to a Shinano torpedo attack. So if you're looking for more of a torpedo aircraft carrier, then the Hakuryu is going to be more of your best bet. But if you're wanting more of this more diverse gameplay, then you'll definitely enjoy the Shinano overall. But I had fun being very aggressive in this thing, using the smoke for coverage, and then using my planes to spot. It was a lot of fun to be able to do that, just meme around using that gimmick. Now, A lot of you guys are to be like, oh, look at this dude promoting an aggressive CV. And yeah, I'm sorry for this. If you see a bunch of Shinanos just running in and dying, my apologies. But yeah, it's fun as hell, right? It's fun as hell to do this. It's hilarious. If you enjoy playing CVs, then you're gonna have a lot of fun playing this thing, right? It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for sure. The only main drawback that I see from this thing is the fact that it's not the quickest. If this thing was like base speed 30 knots and you could get up to 33 knots, it'd be way quicker to get into battle, be able to push in. And my God, it would be even more cheesy with the secondaries if you could actually do that. But again, it is a Yamato hull, so I don't expect it to be like Mach 2000, right? It's not going to be the fastest, but I wish it was like a little bit quicker. It'd be more memey with that, but unfortunately it isn't. So again, you can get this ship along with the Archer Fish, the Prince von Orange, the George Hoffman, starting on Wednesday, 28th of November, and the 29th of November for EU and Asia. If you are playing, I'm sorry, if during the Steel event, and that'll be starting then, and you can start buying these ships for 36,000 steel each, not individually, each. And when you buy it, you get a 36,000, you get a steel camo and a 30-day eco boost when you play this ship. That's something I forgot to mention. You do get a steel camo with the bundle and a 30-day eco boost, which kind of encourages you to play this ship, try it out, enjoy it, get those economic free, commander and free XP bonuses while you play this thing. It really will help out your economics for, well, will help you out grinding those credits, free XP and commander XP when you buy one of these ships. Now, I'll be doing a review on the Archer Fish as well as the Orange and the George Hoffman throughout this week. So if you guys are looking for them, just wait and you'll see all my reviews. I'm definitely looking forward to sharing them all with you. It'll be a lot of fun for sure. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this aircraft carrier. Do you think it's a unique one? Do you guys like it? Do you not like it? I know the obvious answer is, oh, it's a CV. Yeah, rip. Cancer. It's in the game. That's gonna be the obvious answer. But overall, I'd let you guys to know like how much of like a cancer to the game this carrier is compared to other ones. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on how good or bad this will be for the game, do you think? Kind of like how the U-45 is. Like the U-45, we can all agree it's pretty bad for the game, right? But I'm curious how much this will be for the game, how good or bad. Because I feel like this ship takes a lot of skill to use. It's not just a easy go aircraft carrier. The AP skip bombers take more skill to use, along with the fact that you have to, if you're trying to use the secondary meme, you have to really be on your A game for mirroring and spotting and controlling your aircraft carrier to make sure it doesn't go out of the smoke or anything like that. You have to be on your aim game when to push in and when not, because if you push it too early, you're gonna get absolutely destroyed. If you push it too late, you're not gonna be doing anything. You're just gonna be waddling behind your team. So you have to know when to push, when not to push, and when to use each of the squadrons. But overall, I'd say it's a pretty fun aircraft carrier. It's definitely meme worthy. If you have 36,000 steel lying around, I would say go for it. If you don't, just wait until the steel event ends. You can get this ship with a coupon, a steel coupon. You can get it for way cheaper than the 36,000 steel. You just wait for it to be over, because they did confirm the Archer Fish and the Shinano will be coming into the armory after the event is done. The Prince Orange and the George Hoffman have not said what those will be for, so we have no idea for those. But anyway, I'm gonna showcase the build So, yeah, you guys can enjoy that. All right, so here is the Shinano in port. You guys can take a look at its armor. So the armor is, like, as I was saying earlier in the video, is a 27mm bow in the front, 27 in the rear. It has a very similar citadel to the Yamato, where it has the angled bow citadel and the angled rear, but the middle plate is only 160, so you can definitely get citadeled here if you're not careful, so definitely be careful of that. But let's go over the build that I run on this ship. So for the commander, in the first slot, I take air superiority to get the 5% quicker preparation time. Next is going to be repair specialist, so that you get 10% extra heal, and then a plus extra repair consumable. You definitely need this for your torpedoes and skip bombers, because yeah, you're going to be using a lot of them whenever you play that. The next one I would take, you can do either the aircraft armor or the survivability expert. I would honestly take the survivability expert first, just to get that. Actually, you know what? I'll take you do the aircraft armor first. Do that one first to get that 10% reduction in the continuous anti-air damage. Next, I would then take Head and Menace to get that extra concealment up. The reason why you take this is so that you're able to get those secondaries. If you look at the secondaries here, they are 11 kilometers, and the concealment is 12.2. Now, you may be wondering why you don't build all the way into concealment here in the modules, because I do not. The reason why is you need those 2 extra aircraft on deck because of the fact there's a very low number. So if you look at the torpedo bombs, there's only 14 on deck, and there's only 20 on deck, right? So if you take that off, there's only 18 and 12. So you need those extra 2 to be able to bump up your numbers of aircraft. Next one I would take after that is going to be the defensive anti-air expert to be able to get the more accurate and battery in the secondary range. This makes your secondaries way more accurate in the range up to 11 kilometers, which you're looking for. Next one you would then take is going to be bomber flight control. You can do this one before the secondaries if you like, but I want to be more secondary, so I'm going to take this one. And then finally, the last one you would take is the survivability expert. Gives me the last skill that you take on this captain. Of course, I use Yamamoto, but you can use whatever commander you like. For the modules, I take the damage control party. Since you're going to be a little bit more aggressive with this CV, using the smoke and use your secondaries, damage control party is very useful to get your DCP up to 28 seconds. Very useful to get that up. Then you would have the engine modifications to get your engine boost to last longer. Then, of course, the secondaries to get the more accuracy and better range. Then you do skip bomber modification, so it helps boost the health of the skip bombers. Then the flight control modification, like I talked about earlier. And then finally, the flight control modification 2 to get your squadron speed up. Now, that is going to be in my video on the Shinano. If you guys have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments down below. But thank y'all for watching, and I will talk to y'all later. And let me know what you guys think about the ship.